ישראל במלחמה.
30 days of war. An IDF soldier was killed today in the battles in the north of the Gaza Strip. On the northern border, a civilian was killed by a Hezbollah anti-tank missile.
התוכנית של נתניהו ליום
Netanyahu's plans for the day after the war, Israel will continue to control security in Gaza. There will be no ceasefire without the return of our hostages. It will not even be considered.
צה"ל חושף כך חמאס.
The IDF reveals, this is how Hamas cynically exploits hospitals in Gaza. Roy Sharon, our military and defense correspondent, reports. First of all, there are very heavy Air Force attacks in the Gaza Strip. A lot of firepower on Hamas targets. The IDF took down the internet and the communication networks. Golani arrived at the Gaza City shore and the city is surrounded. The IDF is expected to enter the depths of Gaza City towards the Hamas center of gravity. From there, Hamas is conducting the fighting from hospitals and humanitarian shelters. The siege is getting tighter. Ruby Hammerschlag, our correspondent in the north, writes, in the difficult incident that took place at noon near Kibbutz Yiftach, a civilian working for the IDF was hit by an anti-tank missile fired by Hezbollah. In the hour following, a rescue was conducted under fire and the IDF responded with heavy artillery fire, during which civilians in Lebanon were injured. Residents were ordered to enter protected areas, and then Hezbollah fired a heavy barrage in retaliation. There was damage to the city center in a number of locations.
בצהריים, בשעות האחרונות כלי תקשורת המזוהים עם חיזבאללה טענו בתוקף כי 4 אזרחים בהם 3 ילדים נהרגו בתקיפה של צה"ל.
Arab Affairs correspondent reports, following an announcement by the media on behalf of Hezbollah in which it was claimed that 3 children had been killed, a member of parliament was sent to threaten an attack against Israelis, and indeed Hezbollah takes responsibility for the attack in Kiryat Shmona, which supports the words of Nasrallah, who said that if civilians in Lebanon are injured, they will attack Israeli citizens.
הנה, ועכשיו הרקטות מתחילות כבר להיכנס לפריים, לתמונה שמגיעה מהמצלמה שלנו באזור...
Itai Blumenthal. We saw the launches right next to us, at least 4 launches of rockets to the country center. We heard the threat of Hamas to fire at exactly 8 o'clock into the center, the coastal region and the Sharon. A number of rockets also fell inside the Gaza Strip. Residents are updating about explosions in East Tel Aviv and North Tel Aviv, which could also be Iron Dome. It could be that this heavy barrage is a response to significant attacks by IDF fire inside Gaza.
בישראל למעשה רוצים שהדיון הזה יתרחש הרבה אחרי המלחמה.
Gilly Cohen, our political reporter, says that Netanyahu outlined the defense plan for the day after the war. Israel will continue to control defense in the Gaza Strip. More army, more defense expenses, and this has a price and political consequences. Gantz and Gallant support Netanyahu's plan. The Israeli government is treating the northern arena with great concern and believe that Hezbollah is not interested in an all-out war. Israel's goal remains to prevent a simultaneous war on 2 fronts.
נכון, אז בהחלט כרגע מדברים על שיתוף פעולה עם הרשות הפלסטינית, אבל גורם מדיני...
Amichai Stein, our political reporter, says that Israel is afraid that the Palestinian Authority, which is currently calming the situation, will also turn their weapons against Israel in Judea and Samaria. And the fear is that thousands of terrorists will attack like they did on October 7th. At the moment, there is cooperation and calm in the area, but because they are not going to work in Israel, and there is still an extensive ban from entering Israel, there is a fear that this could happen. Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi visits the Northern Command. We are unequivocally determined to restore a significantly better security situation at the borders, not only in the Gaza Strip. And we understand very well and hear a lot about the feelings of the residents in the north. We are ready to attack in the north at any moment. We understand that this can happen. We very much trust you that the protection here is strong. We trust you very much. I know the spirit is very strong. I know there are people with boundless ambitions. It was clear to me before, but it's so tangible now. It's a source of great pride for the State of Israel.
היום ה-30 למלחמה.
Today, the 30th day of the war, the IDF is revealing intelligence materials on 3 hospitals in Gaza that Hamas is operating under. Our forces are already operating in at least one of them, the Qatari hospital. The IDF spokesman shows how Hamas built another hospital, the Indonesian hospital, on top of their underground bunkers. The bunkers underneath Shifa Hospital were exposed by the IDF about 2 weeks ago. Today, General Hagari introduced an intercepted conversation that proves how Hamas is stealing fuel for its military needs. They are always saying that there is a shortage of fuel, but there isn't really a shortage. Liars! Liars! The IDF said today that Division 36, that entered the Gaza Strip from the east, south of Gaza City, completed the dissection of the strip and reached the sea. According to the IDF, since the start of the maneuver, the division killed approximately 300 terrorists and attacked over 1,600 Hamas targets. There will be no ceasefire without the return of the hostages. They can take that out of consideration. In Gaza City, IDF forces are conducting raids on terrorist compounds after surrounding the city a few days ago. The IDF has attacked more than 2,500 targets since the beginning of the ground campaign, and today is publishing documentation of rocket launchers our forces uncovered, which were buried near playgrounds in the Gaza Strip. The area that we see here is a playground that used to be a kind of small amusement park, with a launch complex inside it. We estimate that there is also a part underground somewhere here which we will now enter and uncover. In Beit Hanun, a house was located with many Hamas weapons: guns, explosives, armed drones, RPG rockets, radios, and other means. Yesterday, 20-year-old Sergeant Yonatan Maimon from Ofakim, a soldier of the Nachal Patrol, was killed in a battle in Gaza. Against an enemy who turns hospitals into shelters for terrorist leaders. Against an enemy who kidnaps children and turns playgrounds into weapon warehouses, we need to actively fire, not a ceasefire. Only continued professional and determined fighting will advance the release of the hostages and bring about change and security on all borders. The situation is worsening on the northern border. This morning, an unmanned Hezbollah aircraft was shot down deep in Lebanon. In the afternoon, several anti-tank missiles were fired and the IDF responded with artillery fire. Later, anti-tank missiles hit an Israeli vehicle near Yiftach, killing an Israeli civilian. A short time ago, missiles were fired from Lebanon aimed at Upper Galilee settlements, with one falling in Kiryat Shmona with no casualties.
ערב טוב. אנחנו נמצאים ביום ה-30 למלחמה.
We are on day 30 of the war. I want to begin by referring to the many families who today mark the 30th anniversary of the death of their loved ones. We in the IDF remember very well why we are fighting and what for. We embrace all the families who lost loved ones. We are also making efforts around the clock and collecting every bit of information regarding the abductees, and we will continue to treat it as a top priority. Today, IDF forces led by a Golani patrol surrounded Gaza City and reached the shoreline, and today there is Gaza North and Gaza South. We are still allowing a corridor for the residents of Gaza to move south. Today we presented additional incriminating materials to the international media about the cynical use that Hamas makes of humanitarian infrastructure with an emphasis on hospitals. We will continue to expose to the world the murderous organization that we are fighting against that uses its population as a human shield. The IDF attacked Hezbollah targets in the north in response to an anti-tank missile that killed an Israeli civilian. Air defense fighters also used the Iron Dome to shoot down a remote-controlled aircraft that Hezbollah tried to fly into our territory and shot it down inside Lebanon.